guys, have you ever wondered what it'd be like to be responsible for America's nuclear arsenal? My name is Tyler Hickman. If you guys saw my last speech last week, I was talking about how I was in the Air Force. So particularly in the Air Force, my job is to perform missile maintenance on America's ICBMs. So what that means is the nuclear ICBMs that America has, we go out to the field, the actual nuclear silos that they're in, and we basically take them out and put them in, essentially. So specifically, that career field falls into what's called MHT, which is missile handling, and myself as a missile handling technician. So from certification and traveling to nuclear sites to the fate of the entire world, missile handling may play a bigger role in national security than you or most people know. So to start, how exactly does one become a missile handling technician? I've been at MHT for about 2 years now, collectively in the Air Force for about 4. So in the 2 years that I've been at MHT, I've actually been certified in all tasks. I've been on hundreds of dispatches. So in order to get to that position that I'm in, first, you have to go to tech school right after basic training. And so that's in Vandenberg, California. So in order to do that, you have to pass a series of written tests and hands-on training in order to certify yourself as an official. After that, you have to go and get your top secret clearance, which can actually take quite a bit of time. What that means is that you are legally and medically capable of holding that clearance to ensure that if you were around nuclear missiles, you would know what you're doing. On top of that, you have to go through what's called PRP, which is personnel reliability training. And that basically is just on top of the top secret clearance. It's again with medical and just reliability as far as employees go. So with that said, what we do at MHT is the actual jobs. We do what's called emplaces, pulls, and missile rolls. And so what goes into that, I'll get into it a little bit. So according to author Josh Harkinson in 2014, a homeland arsenal made up of hundreds of missiles and countless electronic and mechanical systems that have to operate flawlessly every time is a very hard thing to achieve. And I definitely agree with that. There's a lot that we do. All of it goes unnoticed, honestly. So this is kind of what I'm doing with this speech, is to inform. So now that we know a little bit about what goes into becoming an MHT technician, what is it actually like to work with nuclear missiles? So I'll tell you. A site, we have I think 85 sites around Malmstrom Air Force Base where I'm stationed in Montana. So what that means is we load up a bunch of equipment, we drive between 1 and 3 hours depending on what site we're going to. Once we get there, we just do the tasks, like I said, pulls, emplaces, and rolls. The reason they're isolated is because in the event of an attack from an adversary, if they were to strategically strike our nuclear sites, they would only hit one at a time. They're all 5 miles at least apart from each other, which is very important because if you hit one that was targeted at them, for example, it only takes one, right? So then we have hundreds more that we can use. So an emplace is another task that we do. So an emplace is what we do. We take the booster and the missile itself from the base, Malmstrom, that I'm at, and we actually put it into the hole at the site. So the silo itself, we put it in. And the pull is the opposite. So that's us taking the actual missile out of the hole and taking it back to base because there's something wrong with it, or it's due for testing, or all kinds of things can qualify for a pull or an in-place. We just kind of do the actual job itself. So beyond that, we do rolls, which is the act of actually taking a nuclear missile from one truck and literally rolling it into another truck, which is actually quite a process. It's got to be perfectly level. You got to make sure all the equipment's good to go. And because, I mean, if you mess that up, it's going to be on the news. So that's a big day. According to Trevor Brown of the Wyoming Tribune Eagle in 2020, the ICBM force is more relevant than ever. The mission is very important, and sometimes it is difficult to explain to people how important it is, he said. And again, I can't stress that enough, how important this job is, because our nuclear arsenal is everything, honestly. So now that you know what goes into the actual job of maintaining America's ICBM arsenal, what makes it so important? So according to Judith Brodman in 2001, the first V-2 rocket was successfully tested in October 3rd, 1942. A lot has changed since then. Obviously, it's not the 40s anymore, but rocket testing has not. So, the actual testing process of these nuclear rockets takes place at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. So I was actually there not too long ago doing one of these test launches. And what happens is we take the missile itself from Amsterdam Air Force Base, we drive it to California in a truck, we put it in the hole, a whole bunch of testing and other electronic components that I'm actually not too familiar with get installed. We're there for the launch. It takes place around midnight. A few weeks later, just shoots it out the hole and goes to a facility in the Atlantic. Actually, it goes to a series of buoys that tracks how it performed, whether or not it made it to the target, all that stuff. So that's very important, because should these launches fail or succeed, regardless of what happens with the launch, both our allies and our adversaries will see the outcome with their own eyes firsthand. The implications of that are massive, because in the event of a failed launch, obviously the people that are watching know that it failed, and so they'll know whether or not we are strategically ready for a nuclear attack, or if we'll be able to retaliate if we were attacked. So the implications of that are massive. So with the entire world watching, it's easy to see why missile handling technicians are the unsung heroes when it comes to America's nuclear capability. Yeah, so, we don't want to get nuked, obviously. We don't want to be nuking anybody else. God forbid that ever happens, but they need to work in the event that we need to. So, in conclusion, now you guys know what it takes to become a missile maintainer, what sort of tasks we do, and how our success or failure can determine the fate of potential nuclear war. I'm glad to have informed you on what missile handling is and how we play a role in the nuclear surety of this country. It's a big deal. So if you're ever fortunate enough to meet someone in this line of work, not to toot my own horn, but shake their hand and thank them for what they do. Because without them, this country as we know it may not exist. So, thank you guys.